Hello Masters, and welcome back to your latest video where we're going to be talking about why questioning society, why questioning our morals, why looking into the morals we have that we didn't even realize are morals is going to cause, a lot of the time, an identity crisis. It's going to drive us into a situation where we have to start to question all the things we've learned, that we've been indoctrinated into, valuing about ourselves, valuing about others, and also all the things that we judge as not good, not right, not good enough, unworthy of love, unworthy of care about ourselves. Because the reality is that we live in a society that is essentially based on morality. Even if we don't participate in spirituality, even if we don't participate in a religion, even if we consider ourselves completely non-spiritual at all, we are still living in a society that is very, very, very heavily controlled by our idea of morality. Because the real truth is, anything that causes us to judge other living beings, other humans, plant life, animals, as less worthy of love, of provision, of access, of safety than anyone or anything else is a moral judgment. When we come in and say it is okay that these people do not have enough, that these people are exploited, that these people have way more than everyone else has, that we can destroy the planet, that we can harm animals, that we can do all of the things that we do, and it's okay. Anything that is saying that is making a moral judgment on the value of that life based on some system that was invented by humans. It is always a morality judgment. It is not a reality judgment. In real reality, there is absolutely the reality of the fact that some of us cannot provide for ourselves the way that others can. In real reality, some of us don't have the skills, the understanding, the physical capacity, whatever it is, to survive in the wild, to survive in culture, to survive whatever it is. We are never going to be an equal species in our capacity to survive and thrive on this planet. That is a reality. But to then assume that that is some sort of moral judgment on the value of a life is taking human consciousness and projecting it onto reality. And then the second we turn those things, those values, that understanding that some life is more worthy than other life, and we turn that into a system, we turn that into a culture, we turn that into how society functions, we turn that into laws and rules and regulations that we are all meant to follow, we are now living in a moral society. We are not living in a society that has objective rules about how things work. So like I said, even if we don't consider ourselves to be religious, even if we're not thinking morals in terms of what we think God thinks is good and God thinks is bad, or spirit or universe or whatever it is that we believe in, whenever we look out and say, it is okay for these people to suffer, it is okay for these people to be exploited, it is okay for these people to have access and not okay for these people to have access, we are making moral judgments. And when we can realize that again, we're living in a moral society. We are living in a moral society that tells us some people are worthy and some people are not. That tells us that the answer to getting the provision, the love, the access, the wealth, the power, whatever it is that we want or that we need in order to thrive, in order to be happy, in order to be safe. We have to change ourselves to align with the morality of the system more. That is the solution that we are handed over and over and over and over again. And we learn how to do this in our childhoods, in our families of origin. We learn how to change our behavior, to change the way that we are, to change this and that about ourselves in order to align with the moral culture of our families, to align with what is good and what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, by their dictation, in order that they will provide for us, in order that they will care for us, keep us safe. And we do this to lesser and greater extents because, again, we don't all have the same caretakers. We didn't all have the same childhood. Some of us were allowed to be ourselves, and we were cared for, and we felt safe, and we felt supported, even in all of our different ways of being. Some of us didn't have that at all. Some of us felt very much like there was one way we were allowed to be, and anything that we did that was straying from that led to punishment, led to consequences, led to scarcity, led to being neglected or abused or abandoned in some way. But to lesser and greater extents, again, we all learn this in our childhoods. I am or I am not worthy of love based on my behavior. And that love equals provision, safety, guidance, all the things that I want and all the things that I need. And the absence of that love is the source of all my pain. And then we take that and we carry it with us as we grow into adulthood. And then we don't even think to question the moral judgments of society. We are already conditioned that when we don't fit in, when we don't have what we want, when we don't have what we need, when people are judging us, when we feel unsafe, we are already conditioned to blame ourselves, to go into shame, blame, guilt, hopelessness. We are already trained from very, very young to assume that there's something wrong with us that needs to be fixed and needs to be changed. Instead of saying, wait, why is the system like this? Why is the system set up this way? And in that, again, we learn what is good about us, what characteristics we should enhance, we should grow, we should express, while also learning what characteristics about us are not good, are not allowed, are not accepted, and are therefore bad and wrong and shameful or sinful or whatever it is. These characteristics that get us abused or abandoned or neglected or rejected by the greater society. And again, we start to have these moral judgments of ourselves that were given to us by society that we don't know how to question because we don't even see them, again, as moral judgments. We see them as, this is how it is. I was rejected for this bad part, and therefore this part is bad. And if I were to try to accept it, I would continue to be rejected, and that is the worst thing that can happen to me. Right? We are so conditioned that to be rejected, to not fit in, to not be accepted and approved of is to die. So again, like the more your natural personality or your natural aptitudes or your natural ways of being or where you were born in the class system of our society fit in to the morals of our culture, the less of a self-esteem issue you're going to have. You're going to have had society reflect back to you. Not only is your way of being good in that it gets you what you want and what you need in terms of provision and safety and access. It's good because you're constantly being told and reinforced by the approval and the love of others that who and what you are is good enough, that you are morally good, you are possibly morally superior. Whereas the less you fit in, the less you have provision, the less you are born into a situation in our society where you have access, the more you're going to look at characteristics of yourself and say, these are the bad, wrong, horrible, not good, immoral, undeserving, unvaluable parts of me that I need to change and fix and moderate. Because not only do I want survival, I also want approval, because these two things are so deeply enmeshed in our consciousness that there is almost no separation in our mind between approval and survival, approval and safety. And we are trained from the very beginning to identify with these traits that are either seen as morally good or morally bad, and then to identify with that goodness or that badness. So many of us walk around feeling like we are bad people. We are shameful people. We have bad parts. Not because these parts of ourselves are objectively harmful or are objectively bad in any way in terms of actual reality, actual outcome, actual, if society made room for these parts and you were allowed to express them fully, there would not be some negative outcome, some negative consequence of that. And yet we feel like these parts are horrible, wrong, shameful, sinful, bad, because the morality of culture has taught us that. And morality of culture has then said it's now okay to value your life less than we value the life of someone else. It is now okay to value your life less than we value the life of someone else. And society's morality comes in all sorts of flavors. Society's morality comes in the flavor of beauty. Society's morality comes in the flavor of youth. Society's morality comes in the flavor of wealth and being born into a wealthy place. Society's flavor of morality comes in the color, the flavor, productivity, how much you can overpower others, how much you can be in control. It comes in how educated you are, how many letters are behind your name, how many followers you have on social media can be a flavor. And these are all moral judgments that we then say people who fit into these categories, who have these traits, who do these things, are fundamentally more worthy of the things that they need to survive and to access to social groups and to love and to acceptance than these people. And again, we have to remember that what is being approved of, what is being accepted, what we are being conditioned to say these people are more deserving, are the characteristics that support the system. What is being approved of are the characteristics that support the system. And what is being demonized are either the characteristics that go against the system, so anyone who doesn't fold to beauty standards or doesn't fold to productivity standards or any of these things, which then would be a threat to our capitalist structure that depends on us going with the trends and producing and consuming as much as possible in order for the economy to continue going the way that it's going, where more and more and more and more wealth is hoarded at the top. So anytime you don't do those things, you are considered an outsider, an outcast. There might be like small groups of people that are okay with that like that, but generally speaking, you're not approved of them by society. How you are perceived by society at large, the opportunities you will have when you don't play the game, are completely diminished. And these characteristics are literally driven into us that we should have fear of them. That when we can't fit in and we can't do the thing, we should fear those characteristics, because what are they going to do? They're going to drive us out of the system, which drives us out of supporting the system. And we are taught to hate and shame and blame and guilt those parts of ourselves, instead of being able to see, if the system is so upset about me being this way, why? Why would the system be so upset about me being not as productive as everyone else? About me not being, this level of education or this level of investment in a job or buying these things or consuming these things? Why would culture demonize that? And the other reason things would be demonized are these characteristics of not working hard or being lazy or whatever it is, so that, again, our culture can justify exploiting, leaving out, abusing certain groups of people. And society says, yeah, that's okay, because those people are morally corrupt. They're not good. They're not living by the standard. And therefore, it is okay to abuse their labor. It is okay to have them be unsafe. It is okay not to distribute resource to them, because they are morally corrupt. That is how we see it, because that is how we've been trained to see it. So again, when we start to question the system, why is it good to be this kind of productive? Why is it good to fit in with these trends? Why do I need to have this kind of job? Why do I need to do that? We are going to have existential crises. Because again, when we are saying no more shame and guilt, we're going to have to say, okay, well then, the negative consequences that come with being the way that I am. If it's not that there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with society. Because why should it be so bad that I am the way that I am? And where have I been indoctrinated that these parts of myself are bad and wrong and horrible, when in fact they actually aren't? Or again, I'm coping these parts of me that are addicted, that are self-sabotaging, that are doing whatever they're doing that I have to reject, that are objectively harmful. What am I coping with? What am I trying to fit myself into? Where is it painful to try to be what I'm trying to be in society? And again, why have I been indoctrinated into the idea that that is how I should be? Who does that serve? So when we start to question society, we are going to then start to question our own moral foundations for what is good and what is bad, who is good and who is bad, what is right and what is wrong, because it's intricately connected. We have been trained to see ourselves as good and bad in the system, so that we will continue to try to measure up to the system instead of questioning the system. Any moral judgment that says this life is more worthy than this life is a moral judgment, and it's something to be questioned. And our society is full of them, and our society uses morality to justify so much of what it does. So, all those places where you still have shame, blame, guilt, and hopelessness. What if it's not you? What if it's the system? What if it's what you were trained to do and be to be good is feeding a system that is not helpful for you or for humanity? And what if you are right and the system is wrong? What if that? Something to think about and consider to take this deeper.